Hey Sainers, welcome to episode 10 of the Saints Nation podcast. I am joined here by Bem. No Cooper today, unfortunately. Maybe not that unfortunate. but
Disrespect
poor,
off the
poor
bat.
Cooper. He's in Byron Bay this week.
I reckon he's having a better time than we are.
Probably
He's enjoying the weather. We are not.
True, it is terrible weather over here.
He sent some nice photos of him on the beach.
He did. He did send some nice photos and a video. That will be shown to you guys. But it is episode 10.
Yeah.
Go over all the fan favourite topics, some injuries, of course. We'll do Cooper's changes, even though he isn't here.
Well, he's here in spirit and in video form, as we mentioned.
Yep. Trade and draft news, the greatest segment of all time.
With some very interesting one, because Naz did reject Adelaide and then didn't.
Yeah, we'll have a nice chat about that.
Yeah.
We've also got the fan questions, of course, and we'll do our Bulldogs preview. So what did you get up to over the bye, Ben?
It's going to be a short, snappy episode. I did get disappointed by my team, which was not nice.
True.
You know, didn't get tortured. Didn't have to watch a couple of players in our team that I don't like.
Well, okay. Way to start. But yeah, it was good going into the bye with a win. Definitely better than going in with a loss.
Oh, 100%. Had we have lost to Melbourne, I would have not been happy. Would have soured every little bit of my soul.
We'd be 4-8, but we're 5-7. So the season's still salvageable.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one very important announcement during the week. Episode 12 of the Saints Nation podcast. We will be joined by the CEO, Carl Delina. Be very nice to get him on. Yep. ask him some questions, you know.
Make sure to send in your questions for Carl. We'll make a couple
stories for that. Ask him, very important questions about the future of Nasiah Wangan and Miller.
Not like Cooper, where it's about 30 based off of isn't that signing.
That will be one question we have to ask. But maybe we'll chuck in a few Tom de Koning questions in there. Maybe some Miles Bergman questions. We'll see. You'll just have to wait and see for episode 12. Not that long of a wait, but I think we'll start off with the injuries since we don't have a game to recap this week, as Bem's on his phone.
Yes, sorry.
But Matthias Filippo, he has been confirmed out now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, don't want to go to the game anymore.
That is fair. He
could have been able to upshown his future potential player in Marcus Montebelli.
True.
How good would that have been? Little Hugo Garcia versus Libba. Fucking Bond versus Filippo. How good would that have been?
That would have been very, very good. But Jack McRae, all but locked in now.
Yeah. Stocker could potentially come in as well, I've heard, which will be interesting.
That's a bit of a preview for Cooper's changes. But, yeah, so McRae should be back, Stocker potentially, and then Filippo ruled out is the news we heard this week. And since we don't have a game to recap, no Sander of the week to do, how about we jump straight into Cooper's changes? And I think we'll go to Cooper first, Ethan.
Let's hear this.
All right, coming from Byron Bay. Sorry I couldn't make the podcast today, but we got two changes, Cooper's changes this week. Number one, Jack McRae coming in for Hugh Boxall. Unfortunately, gets dropped. And the second is Liam Henry comes in after a really good VFL performance 2 weeks ago, and he'll come in for Ryan Burns, who should be dropped weeks ago. Thanks.
See,
A great closing frame there, but
unfiltered Cooper.
Cooper did just want to mention, since Poe is now out, Stocker will come in for Poe, or Ryan Burns will come in and replace him.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting changes for Cooper.
Yes, I agree.
What about you? Who are you going with this week?
I think I agree with the ends. I like the ends. I'm probably going to disagree slightly on who comes out. I think whilst Carroll was good in the minutes he did play, I still think we'd probably go for someone who's a bit younger, has a bit more upside in Boxall. So I think Carroll comes out, and then Filippo obviously with injury. Don't think anyone else is injured, not that we know of. Shouldn't be anything on the training track this week. Fingers crossed.
Hope so.
Because something always happens. But yeah, McRae and Henry in. I just want to see some nice dare without Filippo playing that mid forward role, that connection inside 50 that we've talked a lot about this year that we've struggled with. I think Henry comes in and provides a bit of that spark, and him and Max Hall should do a lot of damage together.
That is a very fair call. I've only gone in with two players this week. I've gone Filippo out with injury and Ryan Burns out just on form. We need to fit new players in. So I've gone Jack McRae in, and I've gone Liam Stocker in. So I've been a Henry believer for the past couple of weeks, but I'm just going to leave it another week. I think Stocker has to come back in with what he's shown so far this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be disappointed if Stocker comes in. Did he play last time against the Bulldogs? It's something I might want to check.
I believe so.
I'll check that. But something that if Stocker does come in, I would really like to see Webster come out. I think I'm kind of over
fair.
Webster at the moment. I'm a bit sick and tired of his sprays by Ross Lyon, but him staying in the team because, he's made a lot of mistakes recently.
He has. That is a fair call.
He's been sprayed every single time. Just checking. Stocker was here. Had 15 touches. But he's been sprayed a lot. He's let his opponent kick some goals. And I just think that he's no longer got that lockdown ability. And I would love for Stocker to come in and play that lockdown role and maybe even LOC.
Yeah, I was thinking that. We're in this sort of a weird spot. Like, we're 5-7. We're not that good, but it feels like coming out of this bye week, we've actually got a lot of players that probably could be playing AFL level football that won't be able to. So just thinking like a few players on the outer that can probably get some games at the moment. I've got Ryan Burns on the outer. I don't think he'll play this week. But Liam Stocker, he's about to come back in. Carroll's probably 50-50 whether he plays or not this week. Darcy Wilson, he'll stay out. He'll have to play VFL.
100%. And then, the big man, does he come in after suspension?
Alex Taru. We've got the helmet here.
This is to all you Saners who want to go to the game. Whether it's this week, whether it's next week against Collingwood, whether it's not at all this year.
Oof.
But in his first game,
we have to wear the helmets.
It's got to be the helmet.
Are you going to put the helmet on for the rest of the episode?
I've got my head. Let's do it. Screw it.
Don't know how it's going to work with the headphones, but
this is now. It doesn't matter. Not the rest of the episode, just for now. But this one's for you, Marshy. I want Aisle 29 to wear the Viking helmets. Alex Taru's debut, similar to what Hawthorn do with the Wizard hats for Nick Watson, similar to what Carlton fans do with the Blue Boys. I think often it's up in
Blue
Gabba.
Brothers,
Yeah. And I want to see it with us in the Viking helmets. So make sure all you boys go to Spotlight, go to Target, wherever you get it from, get a Viking helmet. I want to see you wearing one and filling out aisle 29 in his debut game.
Very good call out. I'll make sure to send that to Marshy and potentially make it an Instagram reel.
Most definitely.
As well. But I think that's really it for Cooper's changes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this episode's going so quickly, but it's just because
there's nothing to talk about.
We haven't had that last game to talk about.
It could be a 25, 30-minute episode.
There is one thing we can recap, the trade and draft news.
Ooh,
there was a little bit during the bye and some things I forgot to mention last week. So,
okay.
Tom de Koning.
It's poor on you. Can't forget, mate.
Tom de Koning. He's just basically, the Blues have had their bye. There's been no talk of a new contract. I've heard some things during the week that I've told you. It's basically locked in.
It's 95% minimum.
It is. He's signed the contract, but he hasn't signed the contract, basically.
What I've heard, first 5-6 weeks, really, really good. Wanted to show Carlton why they should sign him, why they should offer him as much money as possible. They couldn't budge, whether that's due to salary cap restrictions or them just not wanting to pay him that much, or them thinking he should take a pay cut because of all the other players who have done that because they have salary cap restrictions.
Yeah.
But then, a few weeks down form because he realised I'm leaving and there's no reason for me to prove a point anymore.
Play good.
So we saw him really good against Todd Goldstein, 37-year-old. Can't really take too much out of that one, but that's what we want from him every week, no matter who he's up against.
Yeah.
Because Marshall's just not providing that same dominance in the ruck.
And I guess that's the conversation point. So I think it's more than likely that Marshall stays, at least for 1 year with Tom de Koning. But if a club came to you, what would have to be the offer for you to let Marshall go this year?
Part of it depends which club it's coming from. But
just
any club. I'd want a first. I don't think we'd get a top 10 pick. So I'm thinking, let's say 13, 14, around that area. I think that's probably fair value. More realistic, I think we get a late first and then something else. I think that's probably what's going to happen. But if a team like Port Adelaide comes and says, hey, we haven't locked down our ruck position, we want Marshall, I'm saying we'll give you our future first-round pick and Marshall for Butters, or straight swap Marshall for Bergman and maybe like a third-round pick.
So it's interesting you to bring up Port Adelaide because I was listening to the Tradies podcast that released today. They came out and said that Port Adelaide are definitely going to be looking at some ruckmen. You look at their ruck room currently; they've got
Soldo and Sweet.
Vicentini, 22.
true.
He's the number one ruckman at
Yeah.
the moment. And then they've
Mhm.
got Soldo and Sweet in the twos. So I wonder if they're a club that comes for Marshall.
It's them, and I think it's GWS, the other one that has had prior interest in Marshall that I know of. They have obviously had a bit of difficulty with Kieran Briggs and his form. He, I think through injury, he's not in the team, but James Madden is their
Nick
ruckman
Madden,
at the
isn't it?
moment. I can't remember which. I think there's a famous James Madden I might be
Yeah.
confused with. But they're one that could potentially happen, and I don't think... Would we be able to do a trade for Lika Lear and Ron Marshall?
I do think that's definitely a shout. I think if we did something like that, we'd be less
'Cause
likely to get a first from
if-
GWS.
Yeah, I think if you go Marshall for a Lear and let's say a second, I think that's close in terms of value, but I don't know what I'd rather in terms of a Lear and a second
That is...
or Bergman and a third for Marshall.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know what I'd do there. Hopefully those are the offers we're getting, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Obviously,
But
Ali, Bergman, players we're
I-
heavily interested in.
I don't think there's any reason to go specifically based off of draft picks because I don't think there's any need to go for them. I think with now being able to trade your 2 future first round picks, we've got our
Yep.
own this year as well. That's enough. And I think then you look at, we've drafted a lot of players in. If you continue to do that rather than target some players in the 22 to 23 age bracket range, it's a bit smarter.
Yeah, I do think that. Another player we've been linked to, and we just mentioned a fair bit, Miles Bergman. So we've been heavily interested in him, but there's sort of been no confirmation. Like, he sort of wanted to return to Victoria, but
Yeah.
St Kilda are apparently his A1 club. If he wants to return to Victoria, that's where he's going. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think his midfield development the past 3 weeks has been up there. I know some Port Adelaide supporters want Naz Bergman straight swap. I think that's a bit crazy.
It's a bit extreme given one's being offered 1.3 million up to and the other's being offered maybe 900. Maybe.
Yeah, that is a good maybe. And you consider, excuse you, Ben, but in AFL's their top 25 players they released this week, Naz was in the top 25.
Somehow wasn't in there before.
I know.
Somehow.
I don't know how, but Bergman would be nowhere near that list. So
No. The only concern I have is if we do go for Bergman, is he forced into midfield? Because you look at what we do have. Is he a game changer? No. Is he super fast?
I don't think it's forced. Like I've talked about it. Like when it was first reported from John Ralph, like round 2 or whatever it was, the pitch to him was we were going to play him as a mid when he was playing halfback at Port Adelaide. Now he's sort of transitioned into that mid role at Port Adelaide. It's been pretty interesting to watch, and I'm sort of getting more excited each week
Mm-hmm.
because I sort of want to play like that in our midfield. Like he's not the cleanest player per se, but he's still got speed. I think he fits in there. Hopefully we can acquire him without giving up Nasaya. But I think
Yeah. The only concern I have is he too little of a difference between what we've already got? Because when you look at it, we've got those contested midfielders.
I do think that's fair.
We don't have a quick midfielder,
Yeah, and
and
like,
he's not that.
we're hoping like a Filippo, a Garcia, someone can develop into that.
Again,
but
but they're more
that's
damage.
nothing.
Like Garcia's contested,
Yeah.
Philippo's damage. They're not really quick, which is obviously where the Butters link comes from. He is super quick.
Sure.
But that's where I'm looking at. Would we rather go for someone who is that in the draft compared to a 23-year-old Bergman?
honestly, I don't know. That's a
And
very good
that's the question we're going to ask Carl.
because that is something we might ask Carl. But because we've been linked to Ludwig in the draft, a key position forward. So I don't know. I don't know. I think all the mids are going to be gone before our pick at this rate.
Well, it depends how good we are. I want to be bad, so we have a top 5 pick, but it all depends how we finish out the year in terms of where our pick lands.
I
But
guess
is there anyone else really that has links to us?
Sam Walsh is another one that
Okay.
we've been linked to. He
Okay.
sort of fills that void you were just talking
Yeah.
about a little bit.
That outside midfielder. Yep.
So what would you give up for Sam Walsh right now? He's not in the best form. Got some injury complaints with his back the past 2-3 years. What would you give up for
I
Sam
think
Walsh?
If we finish, let's say, 8th, we get pick 8. Sorry, don't finish
Yeah.
8th. Like we'll
Finish
finish
10th.
pick 7, 8. I think it'd have to be that and maybe something a bit else because you look at Bailey Smith, what he got. that was pick 18 in the Super Draft.
Yep.
So that sort of value goes a little bit up, and they had to give up something else. The Bulldogs wouldn't budge on just pick 18, so they had to get that and a couple picks in the 30s and 40s. I think Walsh would be valued higher. He wasn't coming off the knee injury, and we'd have to prize him out of there, whereas Bailey Smith only wanted to go to Geelong.
Would you look at something like Rowan Marshall for Sam Walsh, something along those lines?
No,
You don't
I
think so?
wouldn't want to give Marshall up for just Walsh, because I think we're looking for outside talent rather than just that sort of player.
I do think that's fair. And then probably one last point we need to touch on. Caroline Wilson broke this last night as the day we're recording. Sally Wanganeen Miller has apparently refused to play for the Crows.
She broke it, but she's wrong.
Honestly, I don't know. Actually, we'll talk about it first. You think it's wrong?
Yes, completely.
I don't know. I understand both sides of it. I understand why I wouldn't want to play for the Crows. I understand why it could be a false report. The comeback from Ben Williams, his agent, came pretty quickly. It's almost like they were prepared for something like this to come out, I feel like.
Anything that happens with Naz is very volatile. Like, you look at all the stuff that happened with him meeting up with Horn Francis and that stuff, how strong we were and how strong he was in the media with them asking some dumbass questions. But he's still following Taylor Walker, so there's that link. His cousin is still playing for the club in Wayne Miller and has just re-signed with the club. So to me,
that is pretty fair.
There's no root in this rumour. It's just he probably won't go to
Just
Adelaide.
Caroline Wilson looking for headlines. I do think she's right. Like,
I don't think
in
he
the
goes
fact
to
that
Adelaide.
he doesn't go to Adelaide.
Correct.
Because they've got the Burgoyne links. They've got the Horn Francis links. Who's to say Horn Francis and Burgoyne don't end up in St Kilda next year? Burgoyne's out of contract. Burgoyne hasn't signed on yet.
Yeah, Jason Horn Francis is not coming back.
I don't want to Jason Horn Francis.
Hey, we've got a whole new
he's not
swimming
that good.
centre, and he's not going to go for any baths
Ooh.
there. I can promise you
no
that
more,
much.
No more ice baths.
Yeah, as a North Melbourne fan pops his head out, and I can just see him staring right at my soul. Yeah, screw you, Reese.
I think that's really it for the players.
It's a lot of high-end talent, which I like.
Yeah.
Like, you look at it, it's Bergman, who's developing into a midfielder. Walsh, number 1 overall pick. Decoding, top 5 ruckman. Aaliyah, going to be a generational defender. Like, it's all players that have super high potential.
Another player who we haven't been linked to, but I know Victorian clubs have been linked to that haven't been named. So I'm just going to assume our names out there. Neil Erasmus, former top 10 pick at Fremantle.
Yeah, nah, stay away.
So it was like it was West Coast and then 3 unnamed Victorian teams. I would not be surprised if we were in that mix for him.
He's not a former Carlton player, so I'll say no.
That is completely fair.
Yeah, no.
But I think it's time to move on to the fan questions now.
Yes,
See, we've got a lot of questions. One
questions.
from Cooper Power. Is Naz leaving? What's your take on it right now?
This guy's obsessed with Naz, and I don't blame him.
His face is still up here. I didn't even realise.
Producer, please. No, I'm joking. Well, yes, he signs.
Give me your percentage split, like stay or go.
Go 72-28. He stays.
I think that's higher than what you were at last week.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, I think I said 80-20. I think we're going to stay around that mark. I'm still pretty confident he's going to stay.
I think, yeah, I'm still confident. Like, I was confident last week, but I'm a bit more confident now because he had the practice.
True.
Just gone home. Gone to see the fam. That interview was hilarious.
I know.
You know the AI practice interview?
Yeah.
We're talking about practice. Just going to see the fam. It's the exact same thing.
Naz, I don't know. If you want to avoid that type of media like involvement, just sign on at the club for 4 more years and you don't have to deal with it.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about TDK not signing during the bye. We've just had Naz in our team.
Yeah.
2 weeks. That's the deadline.
It is pretty much the deadline.
Please.
But,
Please.
Time to move on to the next one, maybe. Any news on Jack McRae? When will he come back? Well,
We've talked about it this
club
week.
released it just today that he'll be back.
Yeah, every Tuesday at 5 or 6 p.m. is when we announce the injury list. So stay up to date through there.
True, that is very true. Another one, why do some weeks we have very good skills and then the next week they vanish? I think that's a pretty good question.
I like it because it's not even just within different games, it's within the game itself.
Yeah.
I think.
a very difficult question to answer
It
because we
is.
don't quite understand why it happens.
We very much get confused at it. Part of it would be how the situation in the game. So, do we need to come back? Do we need to go quick? Do we need to bite off every possible kick? And that's sort
Yeah.
of where maybe the quality dips. But there's also times where we're going for simple kicks and we're going for easy handballs, and we just simply are not good enough to make them, which is a bit of a problem. And then there's also where we're trying to save the game, and their pressure is inviting us, and it's the fact that we just make a mistake here or there because they're really on our foot, and it's just hard to not fumble, I suppose.
Yeah. I think I'll look at it through a different lens. I
Mhm.
think a lot of it has to do with the younger players we have on this list.
Yep.
They're still developing. They're still very young. It's going to still take a while for them to get to their
Mhm.
game plan, get used to it.
Yep.
So I think that's the lens I'll take. We're still very young, developing, and those skills will just develop over time.
Mhm.
Obviously, some things like missed kicks and stuff, we
Yeah.
should probably be hitting. So the young excuse isn't really there all the time, but
Mhm.
I think a majority of the time that's the excuse. I think we're going to one more. I think this is pretty interesting.
I've got one as well that we can go
You got
through
one?
after yours.
All right.
After yours.
Who is our next A-grade midfielder? Does he come from the draft or will he be traded in?
Hugh Boxall.
Hugh Boxall.
That's our next A-grade midfielder.
That's a fair shout. Well, I was going to say Mateus Filippo off the top of my head.
He's already an A-grade midfielder.
Almost. Yeah, I think it will less be someone we bring in this year.
Mhm.
I think it will just be the development of the players we see right now.
Yeah.
See Travaglia eventually develop into that midfielder. Boxall, Garcia. We've got a lot of players with a lot of potential at the moment, which I really like. It's not something we've had for ages.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right. I think that's it for fan questions. Had to cut that
Yeah.
one a bit short, but
Yeah.
time for our round 14 preview and our bold predictions.
Oh, God.
This is our first sort of rematch, I guess, for this
Yeah.
year so far.
8 weeks apart.
Yeah, but it is pretty interesting. Pretty close. The Bulldogs were almost sort of flipped. They were, growing as a team, building on these wins when we played them, and they absolutely smashed us, and we were sort of on this losing streak. Now,
Mhm.
they're on a bit of a losing streak.
They're 6-6. We're 5-7. If we
Yeah.
win, we're the same record as a team that was considered flag favourites 3 weeks ago.
It is pretty interesting, though. We're, paying $7 to win the premiership. So,
It's ridiculous. How?
it is
We're mediocre.
interesting.
We are both mediocre.
It,
But
pretty
they're
much.
but they're talented and we're not.
What do you think? Like, the percentage is a big difference. They've had a few smashings this year. They've
Mhm.
smashed the likes of Port Adelaide and us
Yep.
already.
Yep.
So they almost have 30% on us, but it's only a game in
Jesus.
hand.
That's ridiculous.
That shows you just how good their percentage is and how bad ours is. Like,
I mean, ours
30%.
isn't even bad for 5 and 7. 90% isn't too bad.
Yeah, like you look at
Considering
it,
we got battered by Adelaide, we got battered by Bulldogs, and we got
Yeah.
battered by Brisbane.
when you look at Port Adelaide, who have the same amount of wins as us, they're at 81%. It's
Exactly.
pretty bad.
Essendon have a win more and have less percentage than us. So
Had- I
it-
don't know how
it's
they've
not the
won
worst.
6 games.
Oh,
but,
because they just bullied
they
the little
they should be
kids.
7-5. Let's be honest. I don't know how they didn't win that game last night
Yeah,
or
well,
on Sunday.
different story. But Bulldogs, of course, they get Sam Darcy back.
Yes, they do, and they've just signed Luke Beveridge.
They did.
Yep, 2-year deal. So I was thinking this.
Ooh, you know what?
Is this Brett Ratton 2.0?
I was just about to say.
Is this Brett Ratton 2.0?
I'm really happy.
Did we win our first game after we announced
So-
Ratton?
8-3 at the bye, lost 3 in a row, won against Carlton, signed Brett Ratton, and then lost. We lost after we signed Brett Ratton. So,
Who did we lose to? Did we lose to the
I
Bulldogs?
reckon it might have been Gold Coast that we lost to. Just absolute out of
Nah.
my mind.
No way we lost to Gold Coast.
I wouldn't be surprised. But
I'll fact check it.
yeah, you can fact check
keep
this
going.
right now. Bulldogs game, Darcy comes back, so there's that factor, unfortunately. McRae does come in, so it sort of cancels out a little bit. But it'll be interesting to see how we set up, whether we still go Keeler up forward or whether we want to have that extra height behind the ball with the likes to be able to help Caminiti on Darcy, which I'm assuming will stay the same matchup. We really game planned last time we played him where we didn't allow him to jump one-on-one in the air. Wilkie was always coming over the back. LOC was then taking Norton or Karmas, whoever Wilkie was on. And we made sure we had someone spare all the time. I dare say we're doing the same thing.
I hope so.
I dare say we will be. I think we do want that aerial support, whether that's LOC coming into the team or whether that's Keeler going behind the ball and then we want to go a bit taller.
Can you move Keeler again?
What-
Like, he had such a great game as a defender.
I know.
We've
This-
moved him forward, and he's kicked 3 goals.
This is the thing. What the Hawks did against the Bulldogs is their mids were great, right?
Yep.
But they had a lot of height in front of the ball. They had
Yeah.
Ramsden, Chol, and Gunston. They had all three of them, right? And behind the ball, they still had Barris, they still had Weddle, and they still had Barras and Battle. So they were still somewhat tall, and that's without Darcy.
What you're saying, this man could be in the Viking.
Oh, it's a really good player.
But a point on Ratton. So we signed him, and 2 days later we lost to Freo.
Oh, it's Fremantle. I knew it was
Saturday
an
night.
interstate.
That was that was the game Matt Stevic got dropped after
because
how
of
bad
the
he
shocking
umpired. Yeah.
calls.
Yeah, I do remember that game. I had a flight to catch
Yeah.
like 3 a.m. the next morning, and I still
Jeez.
went because I thought we were going to win.
Hey, you would have been up to stay up all night from it. To be
I
fair.
did, yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
But so
How
think
how
it's
we
a bit-
game plan is going to be interesting. You want
Yeah.
to give your opinion on the back line because if we bring in Tyra, it's going to be a very interesting thing.
yeah, well, I want to pull up the back line we had
Mhm.
against Melbourne.
Melbourne,
So the back line we named was Keeler, Wilkie, Webster, but we obviously saw Caminiti
Yeah.
fill Keeler's role.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we could see Ataru.
Taru.
I haven't named him. Like, we could see O'Connell. It does make me wonder, like, could we swing Taru in?
It's honestly
Sinclair's 200 Taru debut
not a,
game.
Yeah.
Big Thursday night clash.
Get the mullets behind the the Viking helmet. Surely.
Maybe it might be the move.
The problem is I don't want to have it this week because it's a Thursday night. People might not have time to get their Viking helmets.
True.
It's going to be a big rush. But, talking about the back line, midfield's going to be even more interesting.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't be surprised if we go Steele, Windy, and McRae as our starting midfielders. And that's atrocious in my opinion because Steele probably goes to Bont, I dare say.
Yeah, well, I'd say Stocker to Bond because Stocker has more of a chance to move.
Forward and back.
Well, Bond has more of a chance to move forward.
Yeah.
But I think we'll see
Steele to Libba.
Steele to Libba, Stocker to
Windy
Bond.
to Richards. Windy has to go to Richards.
Yeah,
He's the most damaging player in the competition right now. Stop him.
he's number one, isn't he?
Yeah, he is number one rated player in the by far, according to Champion Data, and he has just been incredible. Like, you stop him, you stop a lot of their effectiveness inside 50, I'll call it, because they can still tend to bomb it in. If you don't let Libba get the ball and get it out, then they're not necessarily going to be able to do that. Treloar's going to have 35 and 3 goals, is my bold prediction,
Yep.
because he always does it against us.
Yeah,
Like, it's
that's fine.
almost a lock.
What's your win margin?
I couldn't tell you more than 50 points, to be honest.
You think Bulldogs are
think-
going to
I
win by
think
50?
They just do it to us. We really struggle. We really struggle against them.
That is true. They are our bogey team at the moment, apart from that one time in 2023.
Yeah, prime Ross
But,
Ball.
Cooper's gone with. Cooper's very lucky to send his in. No video this time, but
Oh,
Saints by 7, so he's gone for us to win, surprisingly.
wow!
And Butler backs up last game's performance. So
Really?
I think that's a pretty interesting bold call. I've gone Saints lose by 24.
Mm-hmm.
They're just our bogey team.
Yep.
And I've gone Mitch Owens 5 goals. I think he'll be
5 goals when we lose by 4
yeah.
goals.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, I agree with the Mitch Owen stuff. They struggle to defend him.
They do.
You look at their tours; neither of them are physical, and so unless they play Buku back, even still, he's got the athleticism on Buku. I agree with the Owens thing. I think he kicks at least 3 minimum.
I think we're in for a big Owens game.
Mhm. And they're gonna have to have a really good game. They're gonna have a resurgence, I think.
Yeah.
And they cannot be 6 and 7, tied with St Kilda, possibly sitting 10th by the end of the week. I just don't think it happens.
Yeah.
I can't say it.
Just one thing before we close. We didn't touch on it much last week. Jack Higgins
Mhm.
kicked 1 goal in his past 2 games.
Yep.
Could we see Higgins go for a big one? How many goals did he kick?
Probably needed the break. He was on 28, kicked 1, had 0, kicked 1. I'm pretty sure. So I think he's on 30 at the moment, maybe 29.
I believe so. I want to see how many he kicked against the Bulldogs. We lost by 71 points. Jeez, I didn't know it was that bad. I don't remember it being that bad.
Stinker.
Mitch Owens kicked 3.
Yeah.
So I think I'm on for a good call here.
Yep.
Jack Higgins kicked 3. Okay. I think we could see Higgins kick 3 again.
I wouldn't be surprised, but actually, no, I'm going to change it. I'm not going to go Bulldogs by 59. I'm going to go Bulldogs by 30.
Oh, okay.
I think it's
cut
going to
it
be
down.
close.
I thought you were going to add more to it.
No, I think it'll be close for a lot of it, and then they sort of extend out late.
Yep. One man, again, like, just before we close, Aaron Norton, not in form at all. He loves playing us. Do you think he'll get on the chain? Do you think?
I don't want him to have any shot in the corridor. I want all of his shots to be on the boundary, because if he starts missing like he did in front of goal
Yes.
last time we played them, we're on. If
Yep.
they start missing, we're on.
Yeah, he kicked 3 goals, 3. So
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
we could be on here. I don't think we'll get up, unfortunately. But
It'll be interesting because we game planned so much to be able to stop Darcy last time we played them that we had no idea what happened when he came
Yeah.
out. If he plays this week, I think it could be something similar in terms of game plan. Don't look. But yeah, I'm just assuming he comes back, we lose.
yeah,
If he doesn't come
that's a
back, we've
fair
got
call.
a real ripe chance to win this game.
That is definitely a fair call. But it'll be interesting, assuming you're going, of course.
I am definitely going.
I've got tickets. I'm hoping I can make it.
I'm
but,
not going to be in Melbourne after Friday, so I've got to go Thursday night.
You have to.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think that's it, Saners. Episode 10 of the podcast. We've made it to
Yeah.
double digits.
Yeah, short and sharp this one.
Yeah.
Nice, straight to the point.
Don't know how we survived this long.
Yeah, sorry, Cooper, but you know,
it was a pleasant episode.
memorial episode without you, with
Yeah.
you in spirit on
True,
the TV.
True.
Can we get that
where
photo
is he?
back,
Where is he?
please? I want to see that video and the photo.
We'll do it one more time.
Yeah.
All right, coming from Byron Bay. Sorry I couldn't make the podcast today.
I'm so jealous
but
of the
we
weather.
got 2
I know.
changes. Cooper's changes this week.
Thanks, Cooper.
Number 1, Jack McRae coming in for Hugh Boxall. Unfortunately, gets dropped.
Mhm.
And the second is Liam Henry comes in after a really good VFL performance 2 weeks ago. And he'll come in for Ryan Burns, who should be dropped weeks ago. Thanks.
Also, notice how he said Ryan Burns should have been dropped weeks ago.
I know.
I was on this weeks ago. You two were backing him in.
He played a very good game against Carlton. He played a very good game. He got my 3 votes. But I think it's time to go. And I think it's time for us to go. I think it's time to close.
Yeah.
Perfect image to close on. Thank you guys for listening.
Zoom in on Cooper.
Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, follow us on Apple Music, and we'll see you guys for episode 11. Thank you.